Is there a race on the Earth plane today who has access to more information than another race?
There is not. It has nothing to do with race, meaning background, meaning color of skin, meaning education. What?
Of an Indian, the Indian race, for example.
Your point of attraction is purely from your point of vibration. And your point of vibration has nothing to do with the color of your skin or the corner of the world from which you have come forth. But your vibration is affected by the way you feel about that. And so someone who is believing that he is more or less than because of the color of his skin would vibrate accordingly. There is no one that is feeling more negative vibration than one who feels prejudice against, for example. In other words, if you decide that you are less than, or if you feel defensive because you think somebody else thinks that you are, then that causes you to vibrate in a place that would cause you to be disconnected. But the color of the skin has nothing to do with that, nor does the female or male have anything to do with that. You are all, you see, from non-physical, you are all same. It is energy. It is all universal energy that floods into the physical vessels. Clear enough?
Yes.
Can I comment on that?
Certainly.
Okay. There are races, you might say, or groups, religious, ethnic groups, that seem to focus on specific areas. Some specific seem to focus more on doing things through thought, and some seem to focus more on making things happen more through action or lack of action. And then within all of those, you find those great leaders of thought, and those who, in other words, I haven't found any race or group that doesn't have great thinkers and pretty drab thinkers, from what I call great and drab. So I mean,
so you are in agreement with us that makes no difference.
Yes, specifically makes no difference. But couldn't we say in general there are some groups that tend more toward thought as a way to make things happen? They would have more access to thought. They would utilize it more, maybe. We all have the same access.
We are in absolute agreement with you that the way you are touched by your environment affects the way you think. In other words, as your father thinks, very often you do, or you choose exactly an opposing pole, depending upon how you feel about that. Mm-hmm. But the environment in which you emerge affects those beginning pulling of the rope, certainly.
In other words, nothing really. The individual is still totally in charge, has total access to all thought. Every individual on the planet.
Without exception. You attract because you vibrate, and you vibrate because you think. Now, if this one over here, you see what happens is, as we said earlier, you feel your disconnectedness from your inner being when you emerge and are surrounded by those who are critical of this or that, or who are warning you about this and that. And so your inner being does not vibrate in those thoughts, and so you become one who develops patterns of thought. Sometimes they are thoughts of criticism, sometimes they are thoughts of resistance, sometimes they are thoughts of well-being. In other words, you think a rather mixed bag. Everyone knows people who had parents who were what you would call more positively oriented. Everyone knows people who had parents that were what you call negatively oriented. And so much so that your society today has decided to give your parents the credit for that which you are. In other words, they want to blame the neighborhood in which you grew up or the family in which you grew up. So everyone wanting to find a reason for you being the way you are. Now, that is all right. If you are wanting to find some sort of justification for why you are the way you are, so be it. We say you do not need to justify the way you are. The way you are is justification enough. The question that we would ask is not, why am I the way I am, but how am I relative to how I'm wanting to be? Am I where I'm wanting to be, or is there some place I'm wanting to be other than where I am? The bigger question is not in justifying or explaining why you are where you are. The bigger question is, how do I get from where I am to where I'm wanting to be? Which brings forth the very important question that you brought up, which is, what is it that I want? In other words, if you must be in a place of knowing what you're asking, knowing what it is you are wanting, and that is what the purpose of this physical experience is about. You chew upon the data of life, and through it you come up with decisions about what you prefer. I prefer this to this, I prefer this to this. Someone treats you rotten, you say, I do not like that. You know by the way you feel that that is not what you are wanting. Someone is very appreciative of you or very nice to you, you know by the way you feel. if you would feel your way through your experience and then adjust according to what feels good, you would be a world of beings who is in a very happy place. What brings forth your question?
My question comes from observation. In other words, my observation is, from my perspective, racially, I am Scotch. These are the only things I know about. I'm Scotch, Irish, English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese that I know of. But mothers say there are a lot of others mixed in there that I don't know about. And so I've never known which side to get on as far as racially, where I belong, because I'm such a mixture. But as my early life and all my early life, I watched the Jewish people as a group and thought, and always hung around them as much as I could, because they always seemed wiser than us non-Jewish people. And so I figured I had great admiration for their wisdom. And when I talked to one of them, he said to me, I said, why is it you guys are always smarter than us guys? He said, we aren't always. He said, but I think the reason often you'll see that is, he said, years ago, he said, you guys took your best minds and you put them up and made them say, no more kids for you. That's wicked and evil for you to have sex and have babies. And said, we Jewish people took our greatest minds and made them rabbis and said, have all the kids you could possibly have and we'll feed you and support all your little children. And he said, so we added to our great minds and you took all your great minds and said, out of here. And he said, that's why he thought. But I always felt, though, that no matter, even if I wasn't from the great mind group, that I still had access to anything I wanted. In other words, I didn't think being from the group made any difference. And so, in answer to the question about the races, my feeling has always been that because I watch in every group, no matter how poor any group is, I always see the leader usually doing really well. They're eating big, chunks of turkey legs and stuff like that, even though there are a lot of people going hungry. And so I always figured that no matter what group, there are those of us who can still eat the turkey legs if we decide to. We can all eat turkey legs if we decided, but not everybody decides to. Is that a good enough reason for why I asked my question?
We are enjoying your rambling.
With a purpose.
What we are noting from it goes beyond your offering, and that is that many of you are still trying to make everything fit with everything. In other words, there is this feeling that you must evaluate not only what is being lived presently upon your earth, but everything that has been lived upon your earth, and somehow make it all fit together in a package that now you can live about. And we say, friends, give it up. It doesn't all fit together, nor need it ever fit together. The only thing that you need to figure out is your relationship relative to your own inner being, because that is where your place of joy is. That is where your place of harmony is.